Hello, hello, and welcome to my thought on this nice warm Wednesday. It's just the perfect temperature out there. And as I was taking my walk, I was watching how children play, and they don't seem to play outdoors the way we used to, because we did all our play outdoors. Nowadays, children watch video games. They have a thing called splash mat that's confined, and we used to run through the sprinkler, is what we used to do on warm days. But they don't seem to do the sidewalk games that we did. We jumped rope. We played Mother May I. Um, we didn't have Barbie dolls, but we had dolls that you fed them water and they wet their diaper. And I had loads of dolls, which I loved. I had a Shirley Temple doll with pretty golden curls, and I even had a Shirley Temple dress. We played hopscotch, which I was absolutely horrid at. And I would hop, and we'd make squares on the sidewalk, and then we would hopscotch, and I would always fall on my head. Um, and we played games with each other, And I remember how I know that we don't do that anymore. And I think that that's a shame because this lockdown is pushing us farther and farther apart. And the way we play is pushing us farther and farther apart. We have more isolated activities. The idea that when a child comes home from school, he turns on the computer and plays video games is abhorrent to me. When I came home, and I remember I would go to a friend's house because people who know me know that my mother was not too welcoming. So I would go to a friend's house, and I remember we used to go to Mrs. Shapiro's house. Mrs. Shapiro had 7 daughters. She had 7 daughters, and the one my age was Dolores. And I would go over there, and she would make us graham crackers with marshmallows, and she put them under the broiler, and then she put chocolate syrup on it. And then we would go play outside. We would play tag. We would hide behind trees, and everybody always found me. And the interesting story with Mrs. Shapiro is they had 7 girls, and they decided, okay, we got to try once more to get a boy. But Mr. Shapiro made false teeth. He made them, and he worked in their basement. So he would come upstairs for lunch, and he'd have a little nookie, and they'd have a little daughter. So this time he came up for lunch, and they had a little nookie, and they finally got the son. That's what, and the eighth, and her name was Daryl. And then they thought, he ought to have a companion. So he came up for lunch again, and they had another little nookie, and they got on. No. They had a boy. They had Marshall, and then they came up and they had another. They did it again to get Marshall a companion, and they got Daryl, which is a little girl. And Marshall was a misogynist from the day he was born. He had 8 sisters, and finally he had to leave home. He had to go stay with the sister Reba because he was doing things like hiding behind bushes and taking slingshots and shooting stones at women. He was an absolute dyed-in-the-wool misogynist because he couldn't stand it because he had these 8 sisters telling him what to do, plus a mother. And then Daryl, the baby, was another little girl. So he went to live with Reba, and he's grown up now, and he became a psychiatrist, which I think is very interesting. But the other story is about how much we loved dolls, and we did love dolls. My dolls and my teddy bear were real to me. I mean, I took the teddy bear in the bathtub. The teddy bear stunk, but I'll tell you 2 stories. The teddy bear's name was Brucey, and I took him with me everywhere, just everywhere, and I loved him. And then, but as the years went on, I used to take him to school, and then my 4th grade teacher said to me, "Well, we need the seat for a real person." And I said, "Brucey's a real person," and she said, "No, Brucey isn't." And I was in the 4th grade, which was 9 years old. I was ready to take on reality, which T.S. Eliot says mankind can stand just so much reality, but I was able to take that on, and I left Brucey at home. And pretty soon I grew up, and I forgot about him, and I was looking into lipstick and to brassieres and to smoking cigarettes and finding a man. So I forgot about Brucey. And when I graduated from college, all the girls in college got wonderful, wonderful gifts. Usually most of them got an engagement ring, which I did. But they also got a trip to Europe or a new car. And I got this box and I opened it up and there was this teddy bear in there. And I looked at him and I said to my mother, "What the hell is this?" And my mother was just heartbroken. My mother said, "That's Brucey." She had just rehabilitated Brucey because she thought I would absolutely love it. Of course, I didn't remember who he was. But the other story about dolls, which I want to I want to tell you, because this was in the 50s when racism was rampant. And this is something that I want us all to absorb. The New York Times, oh no, I used to read the Wall Street Journal. I was my father's secretary and I'd read the Wall Street Journal. And they ran this story. They said there was a little girl who had two dolls. One was a black doll and the other was a white doll. And every day she brought her to school and brought the two dolls to school. And one day she only brought the white doll. And the teacher said, "Where's your black doll?" I said, "What do you mean my black doll?" She said, "Well, where's your other doll?" She said, "Oh, you mean Jane? She's home with a cold." And that was when I learned that children do not see color. Children do not see color. They do not see race. And would we all be able to see the world through the eyes of a child? I think an awful lot of we and they and things like Brexit and things like Donald Trump and things like closed borders would never have happened if we wouldn't see color and we wouldn't see race, if we would see people. And that's my thought for Wednesday. So go outside and play, and thank you so much.